Susanoo. Susanoo is one of the most iconic techniques of the Uchiha clan. It is a humanoid construct made of chakra that allows the user to defend and attack at the same time, creating a full-body protection that can extend through multiple stages. Susanoo has several forms starting from ribcage, then advancing to skeletal Susanoo, muscular Susanoo, armored Susanoo, and finally the strongest form, perfect Susanoo. Each stage increases durability, size, and power, but even the basic ribcage is enough to keep the user safe from dangerous attacks. This is clearly shown when Madara Uchiha used only the ribcage and was able to endure extremely powerful attacks, such as Naruto's Big Ball Rasengan, Tsunade's Enhanced Punch, and multiple other ninjutsu. Even though the ribcage cracked, it still fulfilled its role by protecting Madara completely inside. When upgraded to the higher forms, especially Perfect Susanoo, its defensive capability increases to the point where it can face Biju and disaster-level ninjutsu head-on. One detail often overlooked but extremely important is that Susanoo can be activated almost instantly. This allows it to block extremely fast attacks such as Sasuke's Kirin, a technique based entirely on natural lightning which is nearly impossible to dodge. Even so, Itachi still managed to deploy Susanoo at the exact moment Kirin struck. The biggest drawback is the level of strain. If the user does not possess the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Susanoo puts heavy pressure on the body. Even so, when facing powerful enemies or attacks with large-scale destructive force, Susanoo remains one of the most reliable defensive jutsu of the Uchiha. Shield of Sand. When it comes to defense with sand, no technique surpasses Gaara's absolute sand defense. Gaara's defensive system has an advantage that is almost unique because it operates completely automatically. No matter where the attack comes from, the sand immediately surrounds and protects Gaara without him giving a command. The anime explains this mechanism as the will of Gaara's mother who has protected him since the moment he was born. In Part 1, this defense made Gaara one of the shinobi who were almost untouchable. Only opponents with speed far above normal like Rock Lee and later Sasuke were able to break through this automatic sand layer. But that does not reduce the value of the Shield of Sand because most shinobi do not reach that extraordinary level of speed. Throughout the series, absolute sand defense proved its power many times. Gaara used it to block the barrage of bones fired by Kimimaro, created a massive shield to stop Deidara's explosion, and even endured destructive attacks like Madara's Susanoo sword and Sasuke's Amaterasu. Even when this automatic defense is bypassed, Gaara still has a layer of sand armor covering his entire body like a steel shell which absorbs most of the damage. This is extremely useful in situations where Gaara cannot dodge or when the opponent moves too fast for the Shield of Sand to react. However, sand armor consumes a large amount of chakra and weighs down his body, which Gaara paid for when he fought Rock Lee. Even so, this armor protected Gaara from the power of Lee's fifth gate. Talking about Gaara's defense without mentioning the Shukaku shield would be a major omission. He shapes this sand into a shield resembling Shukaku. Because of its compressed structure, the Shukaku shield has extraordinary durability, strong enough that even top-piercing techniques like Kimimaro's Dance of the Clematis Flower cannot break through it. In summary, the greatest advantage of Sand Shield compared to many defensive jutsu is that it has no cooldown. It operates continuously 24/7, reacts instinctively, and grows stronger together with Gaara's overall power. This makes it one of the most terrifying natural absolute defenses in the entire series. Elemental Style Wall. Elemental Style Wall are essentially the same type of ninjutsu but performed with different elements, most notably Water Style Wall and Earth Style Wall. Water Style Wall. For ninja who use water release, this is an ideal defensive option. The user quickly raises a thick flowing layer of water that can block objects, reduce the force of attacks, and is especially effective against fire release techniques. During the Fourth Great Ninja War, we saw the allied shinobi forces coordinate water release to stop Madara's massive fire attack. On a smaller scale, Tobirama also created defensive waves to counter Hiruzen's fire techniques in his battle against Orochimaru. Kakashi has used it against Kakuzu, and Darui performed water-style wall combined with lightning release when he confronted Sasuke at the Kage Summit. Earth-style wall. If water release forms a flexible flowing barrier, then earth release creates a solid wall of earth capable of withstanding large-scale assaults, regardless of elemental affinity. As seen after Tobirama countered him with water release, Hiruzen raised a massive earth barrier to protect himself from the incoming water attack. Kakashi has also created earth walls many times in the anime not only to shield himself from objects or Pain's attacks, but also to defend against Obito's fire release while they fought in Kamui. The most impressive use of Earth-style wall was when the entire allied shinobi forces combined their strength to form thousands of Earth walls in an attempt to stop the Ten-Tails-tailed beast bomb. Although it failed, it was still a creative effort. Another interesting example is Naruto in the Boruto era, where he unexpectedly created an Earth wall to block Boruto's attacks, including water release and lightning release. This is the only time we see Naruto perform an elemental ninjutsu. Mechanical light shield block. Mechanical light shield block is a defensive technique of the puppet technique. This shield can be attached to any puppet. When the mechanical parts on the puppet's arm open, the user channels chakra into the structure to activate the light shield. We first saw this technique used by Chiyo when she equipped these shields onto her own arms and onto the puppets she controlled, creating a solid defensive layer against sudden attacks. Later in the Fourth Shinobi World War, Kankuro also equipped mechanical light shield block onto the Sasori puppet, which had become part of his arsenal. These mechanical shields proved to be reliable defensive tools blocking direct attacks on the battlefield. 8 trigrams palm rotation. 8 trigrams palm rotation is one of the most iconic defensive techniques of the Hyuga clan. In theory, you can block attacks coming from every direction at the same time. The user releases chakra from all chakra points on the body while spinning at very high speed, creating a vortex of chakra around them. This barrier can repel or neutralize any form of attack from physical strikes to long-range ninjutsu. This technique is widely known thanks to Neji Hyuga, who demonstrated palm rotation with outstanding effectiveness. In Part 1, Neji used palm rotation multiple times, most notably in his battle with Naruto and in his life and death fight against Kidomaru, where the technique played a crucial role. He later continued to use and refine this technique even further. Shinra Tensei. Shinra Tensei is the most iconic technique of the Rinnegan and was used many times by the Deva Path Pain. When activated, the user creates an invisible, repulsive force that destroys everything around them, from shinobi to weapons to ninjutsu and even giant summonings. Although often viewed as an area of effect attack, Shinra Tensei also acts as an absolute shield that prevents anything from touching the user during the moment the technique is active. The most memorable moment when Shinra Tensei was used is, of course, during Pain's invasion of the Hidden Leaf Village. He repeatedly used this technique to defend against many different attacks, from repelling Naruto's Rasen Shuriken to blocking Kakashi's assaults, and even a full army of Naruto's shadow clones could not reach him. However, this technique has an important weakness because after each use it needs about 5 seconds of cooldown, which becomes dangerous if the opponent is faster or stronger than usual. But even with that weakness, Shinra Tensei still holds its place as one of the most terrifying and unique defensive techniques in the entire series. Enma's adamantine cage. Enma's adamantine cage is a technique used by Enma, the summoning beast of Hiruzen. Enma can transform his body into the adamantine staff, a rod harder than steel and almost impossible to destroy. The notable point is that he can split into multiple staff segments to form a cage around the user, which functions as a defensive barrier. During the battle between Hiruzen and the Hokage, revived by Edo Tensei, Enma used Enma's adamantine cage to protect Hiruzen from Hashirama's wood-style deep forest emergence. Although that version of Hashirama was not as strong as his original body, the fact that this cage could still withstand his wood style is clear proof of its near-indestructible durability. But this cage is not an absolute defensive ninjutsu, because its structure still has many gaps, so Hiruzen is not completely safe while standing inside. The biggest convenience is that Enma performs this technique himself. The user almost does not need to do anything, and only has to summon Enma, while the creation of the protective cage is handled entirely by him. Yata Mirror. If we talk about Susanoo, then we cannot ignore the Yata Mirror, the mythic shield equipped on Itachi Uchiha's Susanoo. While Susanoo itself is already an exceptional defensive jutsu, the Yata Mirror raises that capability to an entirely different level. This shield is described as almost indestructible because it can change its own nature to nullify any type of attack, from physical strikes to ninjutsu, with massive destructive power. Attached to the arm of Itachi's Susanoo, the Yata Mirror not only provides direct protection, but also covers a relatively wide area around the user. In theory, if Itachi had ever deployed perfect Susanoo, this shield would have also expanded and grown stronger accordingly, creating a defensive system that surpassed even the armor of a normal Susanoo. This is impressive because even perfect Susanoo can be damaged, as we saw in the final battle between Naruto and Sasuke. Simply put, if a Uchiha like Sasuke had possessed the Yata Mirror in those battles, even Tailed Beast level attacks, such as the Tailed Beast Bomb or the Rasen Shuriken, would have almost no chance of breaking through this shield. Summoning Rashomon. Rashomon is one of the strongest defensive techniques on par with the Yata Mirror, and is a very rare ability seen in the series. Each Rashomon gate that is summoned forms a massive barrier capable of absorbing impact and reducing the power of an incoming attack before it reaches the user. Depending on the user, the number of gates can vary from single Rashomon to 5-layer Rashomon, with each additional gate creating another layer of protection. Rashomon was first seen when Sakon and Yukon used single Rashomon to block a massive attack from Kiba in his two-headed form. Later, Orochimaru used triple Rashomon to block a Biju Dama from Naruto in his version 2 form. Although all 3 gates were destroyed, they reduced enough force for Orochimaru to survive, instead of being completely blown away. The most impressive case of this technique appeared in the battle between Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha. After Hashirama deflected a tailed beast bomb with the wood, Golem Madara strengthened the next attack by combining the tailed beast bomb with the Susanoo sword, creating a shuriken-shaped sphere with huge explosive power. Unable to catch it like before, Hashirama was forced to summon the 5-layer Rashomon to alter the trajectory of the attack. Even though all 5 gates collapsed, Hashirama remained unharmed, which proves that Rashomon nullified almost all of the force from that destructive technique. Wood Release Defensive. In the defensive arsenal of Wood Release, the most prominent techniques are Wood Release, Hobi Technique, and Wood Locking Wall, which have both demonstrated overwhelming defensive power. Wood Release Hobi Technique is a colossal wooden shield shaped like a beast face created by Hashirama to protect himself or the wood golem. This technique is famous for blocking the tailed beast bomb of the 9 tails while taking almost no damage. Although the wood golem may have absorbed part of the explosion, the defensive strength of the Hobi technique is still extremely impressive. The only limitation is its massive size, which makes it less suitable for close combat or confined spaces. Alongside that wood release, wood locking wall is a more flexible option. Yamato used this technique to defend himself during Naruto's battle with Orochimaru, showing its ability to raise walls quickly and block attacks effectively. An interesting detail appears in a Naruto game segment, where Hashirama is also seen using another variant of this technique. This version is larger than the wood-locking wall that Yamato used. This wooden dome is large and durable enough to alter the trajectory of a tailed beast ball, redirecting its destructive power to another location. Kamui is an exclusive technique of the Mangekyo Sharingan belonging to Obito Uchiha. Although it is often known as a space-time ability, Kamui is far more powerful when used for defense. Interestingly, Kamui is divided into 2 different forms of power. Obito possesses the close-range Kamui, which allows his body to become intangible, while Kakashi uses the long-range version, which can warp away any object flying toward him. We will talk about Obito's close-range Kamui first. His Kamui allows his body to become intangible when activated. Any part of his body that is about to be struck is immediately warped into the Kamui dimension, causing all attacks to pass through without dealing damage. But that is not all. Obito can also use Kamui to warp his entire body and even his opponent into his dimension, and then reappear anywhere he wants. However, like any ninjutsu, Kamui also has weaknesses. First, Obito can only maintain his phasing state for a maximum of about 5 minutes. After that time, he must return to a physical state and becomes vulnerable. In addition, while intangible, Obito cannot touch or interact with anything unless he had already placed his hand on it beforehand. This means that to attack, he must rematerialize first, and that exact moment of becoming physical again is the biggest opening of Kamui. This is the weakness Minato exploited to hit Obito with Flying Thunder God. Likewise, Conan used the same 5-minute limit by creating a sea of exploding tags that detonated continuously for 10 minutes, forcing Obito to appear with no place to escape. These examples show that even though Kamui is almost perfect, it can still be countered if the opponent understands its mechanism. Obito has the intangible ability, Kakashi possesses the long-range Kamui. Kakashi usually uses it to warp away any incoming object. This serves as his last resort defense in situations where he cannot evade, such as when he used Kamui to remove Deidara's explosion, to block Pain's nail, or to erase the missile from Asura Path that was chasing Choji. Kakashi even used it to make the Truth Seeking Orbs disappear during the 4th Shinobi World War. However, this technique consumes a huge amount of chakra, which limits him to using it only in critical moments, and it is usually effective only on smaller targets. Although different in operation, both halves of Kamui share the same core trait, the ability to completely nullify damage. The combination of intangibility and space-time warping makes Kamui one of the strongest defensive systems ever shown in Naruto, a protective ability far beyond most defensive jutsu in the series. Truth Seeking Orbs. Truth Seeking Orbs are one of the strongest all-purpose offensive and defensive techniques and can only be used by those who possess Six Paths power. These floating black chakra spheres are among the most dangerous tools ever seen. They are created from the 5 basic chakra natures combined with yin release and yang release, forming a special substance that can freely change shape and properties according to the user's will. Thanks to this structure, the user can turn the orbs into shields, walls, or even form a protective layer around themselves, making them almost untouchable. What makes the Truth-Seeking Orbs terrifying is their mechanism. If the opponent does not possess Six Paths Senjutsu, they will be disintegrated instantly upon contact with the orb. This is why shinobi like Kakashi or Might Guy cannot attack Madara directly, and why Guy was forced to use Evening Elephant and only strike Madara from a distance. Not only that, the Truth-Seeking Orbs are infused with Yin-Yang release, allowing them to completely nullify all forms of ninjutsu. No matter how powerful your technique is, if it does not contain Sage Mode and Six Paths Jutsu, it becomes meaningless. This makes breaking through this defense almost impossible with normal methods. To damage them, an attack must use Sage Mode or Six Paths Chakra. But even with those conditions, the Truth-Seeking Orbs are extremely durable. Having Sage Mode, or even Six Paths Sage Mode, does not guarantee instant destruction because the orbs can withstand enormous force before beginning to break. In conclusion, the Truth-Seeking Orbs are one of the most destructive defensive systems in Naruto, a shield that can kill on contact, nullify every ninjutsu, and can only be destroyed by Six Paths level power or Sage Mode conditions that almost no shinobi can naturally possess. Preta Path. The Preta Path is one of the other terrifying defensive abilities of the Rinnegan. Its mechanism is very simple, yet extremely powerful. The user creates a chakra absorption field around their body, and this field nullifies any ninjutsu before it can deal damage, turning every chakra-based attack no matter how strong into nothing the moment it touches the barrier. Even more frightening is that the Preta Path has no cooldown. The user can continuously absorb attacks without stopping as long as they still have chakra. Most shinobi fight by using chakra, so during Pain's invasion, the Preta Path could simply stand there and absorb every attack from the Leaf Shinobi with almost no fear of being harmed. However, the Preta Path is not invincible. It cannot absorb taijutsu because physical attacks do not contain chakra. This is why shinobi like Rock Lee or Might Guy are the ones who can actually threaten this path. Another weakness is that the Preta Path can be overloaded if it absorbs natural energy, as shown when Naruto used Sage Mode and turned one of the Pains into stone. But this limitation does not apply to those who can control Sage energy like Madara, who once absorbed Hashirama's energy with ease. Overall, the Preta Path is an almost perfect defensive technique against all ninjutsu, forcing opponents to switch to taijutsu or find the rare opening to strike. In a world where battles rely mainly on chakra, this is one of the most troublesome and overwhelming defensive abilities ever shown. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos.